Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy, Mr. GoodBuds, and we back with the discussion, another podcast. This is going to be number 3. And what we're going to be talking about in this podcast is IPM, or Integrated Pest Management, or pest control. We're going to talk about the most common pests that people get, and we're going to talk about how to get rid of them, how to spot them. But before we get started, just a quick word from Mars Hydro, man. Yes, sir. Mars Hydro has everything you need to get you going. They got lights, they got tents, and they even got inline fans to help with that exhaust. We got bar style lights and we got quantum board style lights. Mars Hydro has everything that you need to get you going and have you a successful grow. Everything that they has the perfect amount of power, perfect amount of light penetration to the tent. Everything that you need to get you going, man. I'm telling you, make sure you holler at Mars Hydro. Go on Amazon, and you can look at everything that they have, and they have a beautiful store on Amazon. And make sure when you go there, you use the code Mr. GoodBuds, and that's going to give you a nice discount on everything that you want. Anything that's Mars Hydro, Mr. GoodBuds, make sure you type that in, man. All right, so let's get right into it, man. We're going to be talking about pest management, or IPM, or pest control is what I like to call it. And basically I'm just going to talk about a few of the most common pests and how to treat them. I haven't had all of these pests, so I had to do some research. I knew what the most common pests were, but I didn't have and I had a few of these pest problems myself, so don't get me wrong, but I knew what the most problem pests were, but I didn't have all the problems myself. Is your alive is locked. Wait, what did it say? Nah, how do you personally raise the lock? How do you mix? Is your alive locked? No, it's not locked. Y'all should be able to just jump in. Hold on. Let me mess this back. Oh, I didn't even anticipate having to message people back during the shits. All right, so it's definitely not locked. I made it for everybody, right? I know it's for everybody. I know what I'm doing. All right, so a lot of these pests that we got here is I've had 2 of them, and 3 of them I haven't had, and then we got some really bad ones we're gonna talk about. So first, let's talk about one thing that I like to do with all pests that help with all pests. I don't know why it's not showing the names of the people. That shit got me distracted. My bad. But he said he's trying to join. Wait, hold on. My bad, Joe. I'm trying to help my mans out. We got somebody trying to join. Shit, I gotta help him. Shit. Alright. So let's get into it. I put the link on there, so all you gotta do is click it. So back to it. So first thing that I like to do, I just yell like a motherfucker. First thing I like to do, and I'm cussing probably too much. I like to, first thing is use sticky traps. Now, I should have grabbed some, but I didn't grab them. I got some over there. The sticky traps are good for everything. That's how you're going to identify any pest that you have for the most part. If it's not broad mice or russet mice, you won't be able to identify them on sticky traps. And I use sticky traps. I hang some from my light fixtures. And I also hang them from the light fixtures to attract the flies, so they land on them. And I used to, not so much anymore, because I don't usually have these problems. And my garden, I keep it relatively clean as far as pests. I mean, you guys see, I get kind of junky sometimes, but I've only had 2 of these pests on the entire time that I've been growing, so I must be doing something right. So I used to keep the sticky traps. What I was saying was I used to keep the sticky traps on the pots. I used to cut a few of the sticky traps up and smaller squares, and then put them boys on the pots, right on top of the top dirt, on the top soil. And that used to help me. My bad, I had to throw my other phone. It was always talking. But I had to I stopped doing it because I usually have to take them out all the time to water their pots, and then I always forgot to put them back. But I was taking them out and doing that diligently enough. So especially if you notice some deficiencies like mutating leaves, stunted growth, anytime you have any type of pest, it's gonna cause slow growth. So if you noticing spots on leaves, things like that, then you definitely want to get you some sticky traps down there. So I'm gonna talk about the most common pests. And like I said, 2 of these I've had, and number 1 we already know is the fungus gnats. Now the fungus gnats is number 1 pest that you gonna always have. Pretty much, if you don't got them, you ain't growing. Fungus gnats, everybody has fungus gnats. They come from anything. You can get them super easily. Now that's a lot of ways to treat these. Now what the fungus gnats do is they eat organic matter. Now when you see fungus gnats, you seeing the adult fungus gnat. I know a lot of you probably already know this, but you seeing the adult fungus gnat. And which at that point they're not really an issue. When they're an issue is when you're getting is their larvae that they actually lay in the topsoil, and those larvae actually feed on the organic plant matter in the soil and in your medium, including your roots. And they will hatch, and then they'll sprout out of the dirt and become fungus gnats. So the larva is what the actual problem is. The fungus gnats, adult fungus gnats, is not really gonna harm your plant, but the larva is what harm the plants. So there's a few things that you can use to treat the fungus gnats. I know you guys pretty much know what fungus gnats look like. I should put pictures up. I would put pictures up, but this ain't that type of podcast. My bad. Y'all already got enough work to do, dog. Y'all got to look it up. But so there's a few ways to treat fungus gnats. One, you can use mosquito dunks. I tried mosquito dunks. Mosquito dunks are okay. They're for mosquito larvae. But they're these little round balls that you can pour on the topsoil. You can put them around in your tray, and every time you water, that stuff is gonna kill the fungus gnats in a way. And I'm not completely sure how it works, but I know it has to be watered. But they do kill fungus gnat larvae. They work okay. They're not that great. A lot of people recommend diatomaceous earth. Now, diatomaceous earth is gonna work for a lot of stuff. It's gonna work for thrips. And aphids, not thrips, but aphids, because aphids is mostly in the soil and on your roots, and we'll get to talking about aphids, which I've never had, so I had to research. We'll talk about aphids in a second, but the diatomaceous earth is basically microscopic glass sand that you pour down, and I know a lot of y'all know what that is. And any small exoskeleton insect or anything like that is going to be ripped to shreds by it, including fungus gnats and fungus gnat larvae. So you could fill that into your on top, put it like an inch or 2 on top of your topsoil. Now, I don't use diatomaceous earth personally because I use dry nutrients. And having to use dry nutrients, I just don't like the idea of mixing it into the diatomaceous earth. It probably wouldn't really be a problem. Honestly, some things I'm a little nervous about trying. And I'm still I've only been growing for 2 years, so I still got a lot to learn. And I still be nervous about a lot of stuff. So I haven't tried mixing dry nutrients into diatomaceous earth. If you have, comment down below. Or hit me up and let me know how it worked out for you. Next, neem oil. Now I keeps the neem oil. Now I don't have to use this stuff too often because, like I said, I haven't had. Fungus gnats I do something different for fungus gnats because this stuff right here, this is 100% pure, as you can see. And it is extremely strong. The smell is so strong. Like if you spray a little bit, now you can use this. You could use this as a soil drench. You can use this as a foliar spray. You can pretty much use everything as a foliar spray, and a soil drench. So a lot of this stuff is gonna work for a lot of this stuff that I have on this list. Neem oil, you mix it with some dish detergent and some water. And a lot of people recommend like 1 tablespoon to. You have to look that up. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie to you because I don't use it that often. But they use a very tiny amount of tablespoon, and that's to help that water and oil mix. Now, water and oil don't mix. We all know that. So the dish soap helps it mix. It doesn't hurt the plants. They don't take it in. How do you say insectically, or I'm not sure of the word how you say it, but basically when they take it into their stem and they take it into their system. I do organic. I do all organic. I try to do mostly organic stuff. So the things that I do is not gonna harm the plant in that type of way, and I try to stick with those things, which is why in this podcast, a lot of people like to use three like a rotation of items. I don't, and I don't have, like I said, I don't have problems like that, but I don't, because a lot of that stuff has a lot of chemicals in it, and I try to stick with everything being organic. So the only really organic thing that I found that really works really well for me is something like this. And they got this too. This not even all organic. Now this is a neem oil extract, which is not the same chemical that neem oil has in it. Now, as a director, indica is the active ingredient inside of here that kills. Now this stuff actually has a different active ingredient. It is clarified hydrophobic extract of neem oil. So that stuff actually does different things, and it kills bugs in different ways. So when you think you grabbing something like this neem oil extract, this is not the same active ingredient as when you get 100% organic pure neem oil. However, this stuff is mostly organic and it works very well. You can use it as a foliar spray or a soil drench, and it's pretty cool. Now, one thing, maybe the first week or two you may get away with it, but I would not be doing any type of foliar spray during flower, because that's gonna taste nasty, especially that neem oil, because that shit is strong, and I couldn't imagine tasting that shit and spraying that on your. You definitely gonna taste it. Now, another thing that we use that I have been using, but this is not what I'm doing currently, is the nematodes. So this works really good. And our nematodes is microscopic nematodes. They're basically microscopic insects that you put in the water, mix it to your water, and they go in and they actually go into the fungus gnat larva and they lay their eggs. They actually burrow into the larva. They lay their eggs, and then their eggs hatch, and then they burst out from within the larva and kill the larva. Very gruesome, very gory death for the insect larva, the fungus gnat. And the way I'm feeling about flies right now, fuck them. We could really kill the shit out the flies. Really. So I like the idea of nematodes. Now, the only thing in nematodes is that it's a toss up with these. Now, when you order this, I like to try and get the kind that doesn't need refrigeration, because the ones that need refrigeration are very expensive. So in that way, I try to stick with the ones that are not needed to be refrigerated, but they don't work as well. And it'd be a toss up. Sometimes they work really well, and sometimes they don't. And the last thing. And I'm keep the rest of this shit really short, because like I said, a lot of this stuff is gonna work for the other things. I'm gonna let y'all know. Another thing that I do that really works really well for the nematodes, which I mean for the fungus gnats, which I also use. I use a two-way combination. Is that I bottom feed my plants and let the topsoil dry out, and I make sure that topsoil never gets wet, which is where most of the larvae are. That's where the adult fungus gnats lay their larvae into the topsoil. So if you let the topsoil dry out, it can kill the larvae, and it can make it harder for the fungus gnats to lay their larvae. So I do that and bottom feed the water through the tray and let it wick the water up. And then also after it gets super dry at the top, then I hit it with a topsoil drench, a topsoil spray of this. Knock them down, boy. That shit knocks them down. After you do that, I don't see fungus gnats for a long time. They do come back. They do come back. Maybe like a month or so later, they will come back. But that works the best for me. I found that works really fucking well. So the next thing on the list are thrips. Now, I never had thrips. Now thrips and spider mites are really similar. Thrips are longer than spider mites, so they look like a longer insect. They eat the underside of your leaves, and of course you'll get stunted growth if you're losing your leaves. All you gotta do is look for spots on the leaves, and then look underneath them, and you can find some thrips. They live in the veins of the leaves. You'll see them. They like to try to blend in with the veins of the leaves. Those things are just like spider mites, but they don't leave webs, which we'll talk about spider mites too next. But all you gotta do is hit them with a foliar spray of neem oil. This kills thrips really well. Hit them with the neem oil foliar spray. And when you doing pest control, it's really important to try and stay in your garden watching your plants, and you catch these things early. That's why I use the sticky traps, because you want to be done with these things during veg. You're not really gonna be able to do much for pest control during flower, but maybe some soil flushes, which I don't like to do. I don't like to do any of that stuff during flower. And flower, the plant is trying to focus on making flower, so I wanted to concentrate completely on making flower and not having to worry about being stressed out and having different flush through the soil and stuff like that. So try to keep in mind, try and keep an eye on plants and get this stuff nipped in the bud during veg. So like I said, thrips, they eat the leaves, they stunt the growth. Same thing, hit them with the neem oil foliar spray and you'll get rid of them. And if you want to, you can also, if you don't mind the chemicals, then you can hit them with the 3P and get two other two other products to hit in rotation, and that really helps with all type of pests when you hit them with a 3 rotation. That way your pests won't get used to what you're using. You can hit them with some stuff like the 707 and the SOS. What the shit? I forget what it's called. The 707 or the Azimax, stuff like that. They use too, and you can hit that. And you can hit them with rotations, but those things have chemicals in them. I don't use that stuff, so I just try to be very diligent and I try to stay up on the pest problem, and then I hit them with these couple of things. Is pretty much all I've been using. Is these two things right here, and I haven't had really any issues with it. So next is spider mites. Now spider mites they do very, very similar, and I've had spider mites with my first grow, and I took care of spider mites with this. Once again, same thing, I hit them with that. And another thing I forgot to mention, only do that like right before it lights out, because these things have oil. That oil will burn the light will magnify through the oil and burn your leaves. It'll burn holes in the leaves and it can hurt the plant. So you want to spray that stuff on right before it lights out to let that dry out. But back to spider mites. Spider mites are just like thrips, but they're a lot smaller. They're mites. They leave a whole lot of tiny dots. Not like thrips. Thrips leave bigger, blotchier dots, whereas spider mites will leave a whole bunch of small dots on the leaves. And if you look underneath the leaves, you'll see spider mites. You'll see little spiders all over the leaves. Same thing, they like to huddle together. Now when I found my spider mites on my leaves, they were all bunched together, all together on one leaf, and I actually took that leaf off and just burned the shit out of it, and then I hit it with the dog ass foliar spray. And that's why you gotta make sure you spray up under those leaves. But the spider mites, now another symptom of spider mites is webs. Now if you wait all the way until you see webs, then that means that you have thousands and thousands of spider mites and they've been breeding for a long time. So I never saw webs. You should never see webs. You should always be in your garden, inside your garden, and being diligent and looking at everything that's going on in there. And the last common thing that I'll talk about is aphids. Now aphids are nasty as hell. They look disgusting. I've never had them. I've done research on them in the past. They're very tiny little dots, slimy looking dots that they eat your roots. They feast on roots. So if you start to notice severe stunted growth and deformed growth from your plant, Then look in your tray, see if you see any insects, little dots inside the tray crawling around, or pull the entire plant out of the pot, and then look at the roots. If you pull the plant out the pot, you'll see them. They'll be all over the pot. They'll be all over that root ball, eating your roots. And what you're gonna do for that is another soil flush. You can use the Azimax, like I said. That shit got chemicals in it. You can use this as a soil flush, or you can use this as well. The neem oil or the neem oil extracts, they work real good as foliar sprays, and they work good as root drenches as well. So with the root drench, you're just gonna drench your root ball with it, and that's gonna kill off those aphids. I haven't had aphids, but the way that they multiply and the way that they act, they could really wreak havoc on the garden. So the last thing I'll talk about is russet mites and broad mites. Now I've heard a lot about these as well. I haven't had these problems, but from my understanding, russet mites and broad mites are devastation to a garden. They are microscopic, so you will not see them, and they look like, from my understanding, they look like deficiencies. Now the way that you'll tell how you have them is once you flip in the flower. The lower temperatures from the light being on less time allows them to multiply and really start to wreak havoc, and then you'll start to get very disgusting mutated growth from your plant. They won't grow, and it'll pretty much be over. You'll have nasty flower. It pretty much destroys your garden. People have had this shit for 6 months before they noticed what they had. What you're going to do to see them, if you want to check to see if you have them, is you're going to take off a leaf, and you're going to need a microscope and look underneath that microscope, look underneath that leaf and look at those, They are microscopic, and you're going to see them. They're very hard to spot, but you'll have to look at them. Like I said, that's the only way. Just like you checking trichomes, that's how you're going to find the broad mites and russet mites. Now, there isn't a lot of things that get rid of them but bleach. So, if you end up with it, from my understanding, once again, you got to start from scratch. You're going to have to kill off your plants because they're not going to grow. So, you might as well just destroy them. And if you find this, if you discover you got these mites, you got to kill off your plants and bleach all your shit down. That's pretty much the only thing that gets rid of them. And bleach will definitely get into your plant, so obviously you can't do no soil drench or no foliar spray with bleach, niggas. Please don't do that. But you're gonna have to pretty much start from scratch, from my understanding. So those are pretty much the most common pests, and that do damage to the garden. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to try something. I'm gonna have to try something with the with seeing, because I'm not sure if this guy was able to get in here, if he couldn't or not, what happened with that. So I'm gonna have to try probably check in on that and see exactly what's going on, and probably do it, log in from somebody else's phone or something, I don't know, and try and do it myself and see what's up. But appreciate y'all for joining once again, man. The audio of the podcast will be out on all podcast platforms. So make sure y'all go hit that up as well. And help me out so I'll give me some new headphones. I just got these headphones, dog. It's crazy, man. I dropped them, they broke, and they wasn't cheap, man. I gotta get some good headphones. But, man, make sure y'all holler and follow me on all podcast platforms. Make sure y'all holler at me on Instagram. Y'all holler at me and subscribe to both my YouTube channel, Mr. GoodBuds and the Munchies. And y'all holler at me on Patreon as well, man. Appreciate y'all, man. We out.